Spain, Brazil, Cristiano Ronaldo. These are some of the busts of the World Cup 2026. We're talking ADP busts in 2026 fantasy drafts. Producer, hit that button. Welcome to another edition of the Fantasy Forecast with Bigz and Schultzy and also Grindberg and Bigz. We're here to talk about 2026 redraft busts, guys that you shouldn't necessarily avoid, but be careful with the cost of these guys because they could lose you your league. How are you fellas doing?
Doing good, man. We're just getting used to an old friend in StreamYard. So welcome back, everybody, after that glitch. But we're here. We're ready to go. And
we are here.
We are here. We're happy to welcome StreamYard back, I have to say. I mean, we may have had a hiccup, but I'm very happy it's back.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, it was just the start of the show. Now, everything is going up from here, unless you're one of these players that we're talking about. Oh, good segue here. But before we get into things, we got to have a quick shout out here to one of our sponsors, Fantasy Spin. And if you want a different kind of fantasy daily experience, Fantasy Spin likes to spin your lineup, make your picks, and compete in tournaments based on real player performances. Check the link in the description and the pinned comments. Use promo code FORECAST, deposit $10, and play at least one tournament to get $30 in bonus play. Let's do this, boys. So let's talk about our bus for 2026 and guys that are going, well ahead of their ADP in our professional opinions. And Bigz, let's start it off with one of your guys here, bud.
Well, first I want to say congratulations to Mike on his Canadian team currently in the 88th minute being up 5-0 against Qatar. What an absolute shellacking. And Jonathan David with a hat trick. In my FIFA game, my FC26 game, I made a character. He's a striker. His name is Patrick Fitzpatrick, and it says Patrick on the back of his jersey. And every time I score a hat trick with him, I yell, "Patrick Fitzpatrick with the hat trick!" And it's fun. We have fun. My ADP bust is Puka Nacua at wide receiver 2. I am not arguing the talent of Puka Nacua. I'm not arguing the ceiling of Puka Nacua. I'm not saying that he can't go out there and have another 1,500-yard season with double-digit touchdowns and finish in the top 10 at wide receiver. All I'm saying is that this guy has an 8-year history playing high-level football, and he's been injured and lost time in a majority of those 8 years. He's too rich for me, dog. I would much rather spend that draft capital on a running back. And so Puka, to me, is a bust at his ADP. I know we talk about the injury thing and don't imagine that they get injured or whatever, but even if he plays the entire game or the entire season, there are still wide receivers that I have ahead of him in my rankings. I know Mike disagrees, but for me, Puka Nacua at wide receiver 2 is just a little too much for me.
I mean, I'm not super disagreeing with this. I think there's a lot of red flags here, and anytime you get into that upper echelon of these wide receivers, it's really tough. I'm fading JSN a little bit this year because I'm worried about his situation as well. Clint Kubiak leaving. Puka at least got a stable situation, but yeah, I mean, you don't know. Like he's been through some rehab situations here, a little blip, and that ADP is out the window. So yeah, this is a red flag here, guys. And someone, when you're putting that kind of draft capital in, is somebody that is it worth the risk? Yeah, I mean, when Puka is on his A game, he's wide receiver 1 in that conversation every single week. So this is a tough fade, but it's the reality here, and you're going to really have to risk this one. And if you want the reward of him playing a full season there, yeah, you're gonna get those benefits, and especially if Matt Stafford could stay healthy. But there's some risk here, and yeah, with the way he plays, his style, he may not play that full season. If he missed 1 or 2 games, then that ADP is going to be harder to hit, because we know with some of these other guys headed into these rounds, like I don't disagree here, Big. So yeah, I think this is a risky play. Still somebody I'm going to have exposure in redraft if he falls, outside of the top 2 or 3. Certainly a guy I'm going to have some shares of because of that elite, league winning upside he presents.
Right. So let's go ahead and max out his stats. So 2025 was the best season of his career. He had 129 catches. He had 1,715 yards. He had never gotten to those heights before. He had 166 targets, which was his highest target number, and he had 10 touchdowns. So if we go ahead and look, we've got 2 guys that had more targets than him, so we can max that out somewhere else. We have nobody that had that many catches. And then we had 3 players that had more touchdowns than he did. So there is a path for him to not return that ADP 2. And now it's 6-0. Oh, Canada, stop. They're already dead.
That's as good as we're gonna get. Don't worry, man. I mean, that's our height here. So as you can tell, I'm wearing my colors here with the
I wish
Blue
we
Jays.
could play guitar.
Here we go. Well, you just need to have some rhythm, Bigz. All right, there, Schultzy, your turn. Oh, it's my turn actually. Let's get into my first fade at ADP, and it might cause some controversy here. He's had all this steam as the top rookie prospect, but at RB12 in current ADP, I'm pumping the brakes hard on Jeremiyah Love. Yes, the talent is real. 3rd overall draft capital. That's loud, but drafting him, this high in redraft leagues is asking for frustration in 2026. But look at what happened at Ashton Genty last year, and I'm not certain he's in any better situation than Genty was. The Cardinals have a crowded backfield. In addition to that, James Conner, he signed an extension. Tyler Algier was brought in, and look what he did last year and year before to Bijan Robinson, and Trey Benson is already on that roster as well. So we know this new regime, they love committees, and they're not going to hand the keys over to that rookie right away, even though they drafted him so highly. So, it's a head-scratching move drafting him in that stage. So it wouldn't be so surprising if they placed him on the bench a little bit at the start of the season and eased him into competition. So RB12 for me, I think you're paying premium price for that production that simply I don't think is going to be guaranteed this season. So I'm going to be fading him until the targets are proven. Guys like Derrick Henry, established. We know that offense is going to be high octane. Breece Hall, another guy I'm really high on this year with that extension. And, I think that the Jets are going to really surprise people this year as their offense evolves. They got a stable force there and Geno Smith, and I think he's going to be able to allow things to happen here. And then Kyron Williams and Javonte Williams, both guys I'm going to take right ahead of Jeremiyah Love, and those guys are going behind. So, the proven production, the proven workloads, I'm taking over this rookie who's going to be in a crowded backfield in an offense that potentially could be, led by one Carson Beck at the halfway point. So a lot of red flags here for Jeremiyah Love to me. Year 1 in Dynasty, oh yeah, wheels up, but redraft, that price tag is quite expensive.
Totally agree. We don't even know if he has a starting job.
Yeah, I mean, and RB12 is just insane. Schultzy, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm not concerned about the starting job thing. I think that's coach speak, but whatever on that. But I do think it is a little strong of a price.
Yeah. All right.
Still with us?
Yeah, I don't know. He just kind of went muted, but I mean, the price tag is quite high there, and yeah, we're gonna have to see if he starts. So this coach speak, this training camp reports here, once we see it in full here, we're going to have to really get the ears to the ground here on what Jeremiyah Love brings to the table here. Schultzy,
and he's back.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, why don't you talk to us about your first bust of the year?
Yeah, so I just have some concern for AJ Brown here coming over to New England, and I get the hype. We get the pairing with Drake May. Like, I'm not fighting that hype. Like, we've seen this happen so many times. You give a young quarterback this stud receiver, and it blows up. However, it has been a few seasons since we've seen the blow up season out of him, and I get that there's been Devonta Smith on the field and the offense they play in and whatnot, but it has been a hot minute, right? There's been some injuries in this knee thing. Like, you got to put some stock into this, right? Like, you can't ignore it. What they're saying is like the degenerative knee tissue or whatever. I don't know. I'm not a doctor, right? But like, this is like, when you read about it, like, this is serious lingering stuff that could really derail a season for a guy. And when we're putting wide receiver 9 price tag on that, that's very scary. Like, we can't talk about injuries, right? We've talked about that a ton. But when it's a lingering one or something that's already there, that's different. And this is already there and looks like it could be presented as a real problem. And at wide receiver 9 price tag, I'm just going to look elsewhere.
I tend to agree. The thing about injuries, like, we have to go back a couple years to when Christian McCaffrey had his Achilles tendonitis, and they said that was degenerative, and then he came back and had one of his best seasons ever last year. It certainly did scare me off for a little part of 2024, but I took the chance in 2025. That role though is different for Christian McCaffrey than for AJ Brown.
Right.
Like, there are many more directions that the Patriots can go if there's something wrong with AJ Brown, or if it doesn't seem engaged like he had been with the Eagles the last couple of years. Didn't seem like he seems like a traditional diva wide receiver that if I'm not getting 10 targets a game, I'm going to sit on the sideline and read my book. And that's just not an investment that I want to make.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all gonna take some flack from this one in the comments and stuff in our viewership, but I mean, I
Bring
tend to
it.
agree here. I mean, he's been steamed up. A lot of analysts have him really highly touted here, and I'm really worried about that knee, to be honest. And Schultzy, you broke it down really nicely there. I'm not willing to invest that, and we saw what happened. The Rams were involved with this as well, and they backed off of the AJ Brown situation. So there's some real red flags, and they're a team that is going all in as well. So that's
a great point. If the Rams backed off, I mean,
yeah. and getting back to like the diva conversation, we have a prime example of at least 3 or 4 wide receivers that had been stud wide receiver ones. They were beyond the 6th or 7th year of their careers. They started showing attitude problems on specific teams. They were moved to other teams, and those problems didn't go away, and these guys fell off the earth. Antonio Brown is one of them. Randy Moss, when he was traded to the Raiders, that's another one. When they start with the diva behavior on the sidelines and in the locker room, and then get transferred to another team, those problems tend to not go away. They're showing you who they are.
Yeah, and this is a role that Stephon Diggs played every single game and saw 102 targets. So, like, I don't see AJ Brown going out and posting 150 targets again like he used to when he was posting those ridiculous seasons. So,
yeah,
I just have a hard time getting there.
I mean, all signs are pointing for him to have this incredible season. Drake May on the ascend here, his year 3 leap, and yeah, I'm having a hard time buying into AJ Brown. So yeah, I agree with you guys, and yeah, I mean,
what do you think, chat? Hit us in the tittus.
Let's do it. All right. Before we get into the next one, we got to shout out one of our primary sponsors, Sellout Crowds. It's a sports first social platform built for fans who want more than just football and less nonsense. If you want to keep up with Beyond the Stream, join the Fantasy Football Advice Network crowd at selloutcrowds.com. Now, Bigz, get into your next bust.
Okay. In redraft fantasy football, do not ever draft a quarterback in round 1. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Josh Allen's price tag in redraft is a first-round pick. Don't do it. I went back through and I looked at the top 10 scores in 2025. The difference between Josh Allen and the quarterback 10 was 80 points. Over the course of the season, that translates to a number that I got my calculator off my phone. That translates to like basically 5 points a week. If you're looking at 16 weeks, the difference at the running back position was like 150 points. That's closer to 10 points a week that you're missing from 2 positions if you're not drafting running back twice in those first few rounds. And it was 120 points, 130 points at the wide receiver position. So not drafting running back or wide receiver in the first 5 rounds of your redraft draft is going to be the difference between you being a champion and you not being a champion, especially if you draft Josh Allen in the first round. You're going to be missing out on points. You can make those points up by drafting the other positions in the first round and second round. Don't do it. My draft strategy in redraft traditionally, and I win redraft leagues every year. I won thousands last year. I don't draft a redraft quarterback until round 9. You don't have to do it. I can get Brock Purdy in the 9th or 10th round and stack running backs and wide receivers in my first 6-7 rounds, maybe throw in a Trey McBride or a Brock Bowers pick and run the table, win the league. I'm not spending that draft capital on Josh Allen. It's just not the point differential is not worth it.
Totally agree here, Bigz. But I think that with such value in the later rounds, like look at what you could get in like maybe round 7, like Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels, who are my quarterbacks 2 and 3 right now. I didn't, you know what I mean? And even Lamar Jackson this year could be an MVP again. I even looked at Josh Allen's schedule, and he's got a really tough schedule against really good teams. And you know what he does when he plays great teams? He plays lights out in fantasy football, and that could be an elite separator at the position. But at that draft capital, with what is tailing him, a Trevor Lawrence is going to be a huge value.
I was just going to say Trev.
Like there's so many quarterbacks right now that could put up 30 plus fantasy points in like 6-point passing touchdown leagues. Like on average, I don't think there's an edge here like there was in years past having Josh Allen in redraft. But certainly this could be his best year ever, and still not be as valuable based off of what these other guys are going to be doing as well. All right, well, let's move on to my next fade, and that's a guy that we've been high on over the years, especially Bigz and I, especially 2 years ago. But sitting at wide receiver 8 at current ADP, Nico Collins is overpriced, and I think he's hitting his ceiling there. And with his injury history, but there's a lot of things that really have some red flags to me as far as Nico Collins hitting that ceiling here. Stroud has been bunk lately. Jaden Higgins is ascending fast as a legitimate second option, and we were very high on him. I'm still very high on Jaden Higgins. I think he's going to have a second-year breakout, and Houston's defense is absolutely lights out. They only did nothing but improve it this offseason, and what else did they do? Well, they brought in the smash mouth football lead in David Montgomery, and I think that screams a run-heavy smash mouth football. So, at wide receiver 8, You're paying for a consistent wide receiver one production that simply isn't there anymore in a lower volume passing attack. They need to shelter, CJ Stroud here. He hasn't proven to be elite outside of like a 3-game sample size in his rookie season. Collins is good. I think he's got the potential, but I'm going to squeeze the other direction. Give me AJ Brown, even give me Devonta Smith, give me Terry McLaurin as a huge sleeper this year. He's a value for sure. Zay Flowers, Garrett Wilson, Lad McConkey, all these guys are at similar costs, and give me those guys over Nico Collins because of the situation. I think this is going to be such a run-heavy scheme, protected by their defense, and I think they're going to score points, but I think it's going to be, it's going to be hard to figure out what type of game Nico's going to have to go off on, because it's not going to be games where they're going to need to catch up on, because their defense showed it last year.
It's not uncommon that I open the show sheet and you've picked a player that I want to pick, and this was the one for me this week. And
happens all the time.
Yeah, I can't agree, and I can't agree more on this. When you look at how the Texans want to play football, this just doesn't line up right for wide receiver one stuff, and an offense that didn't even hit 24 points per game. Like they're, I think, like 11th or 12th in the league in scoring. It's like not bad, right? But like a lot of these offenses, we need the targets, and we need more points out of the offense, and it's just not happening in Houston.
He already agrees. He can't agree any harder.
Well, I mean, it's tough, but it is what it is, and I'm glad that you guys see the picture here too. I mean, like, we love Nico Collins, but I just think that that situation, and you mentioned it last week on the show. I think it was you, Schultzy, the David take, and it was huge, right? I mean, I got him huge this year. I think David Montgomery could flirt within the being an RB1. Look at what Joe Mixon did 2 years ago, removed, right? I mean, he was the top 7 back. So David Montgomery, I think, is fresher. He split carries with Jahmyr Gibbs over the last couple seasons. Like, this isn't a Joe Mixon style run out. I think David Montgomery could be a staple there for a year or two if he can stay healthy. And they got a good pass catching back as well. So I think this is a good compliment.
Hey, if you rock with FSAN, then Pro Plus is where you go all in. Head to FSAN.com/ or in UK, stroke. Subscribe and upgrade to FSAN Pro Plus for Jersey League entry, a free rookie guide, 10% off at FSAN.shop, free shipping, and access to the Pro Plus community on Sellout Crowds. FSAN is more than content. It's a full fantasy football network and community, and Pro Plus is the best way to get deeper into everything we're building.
Awesome, Bigz. Well, Schultzy, get deeper into your bust.
All right, so I'm pretty quick-winded sometimes here, and let's have another, man. Jonathan Taylor, we're coming off of a 320 something touch, and that's just rushes season. And so when we're tacking on 46 receptions, I mean, my God, this is a 370 touch season out of Jonathan Taylor we saw. Proof's in the pudding. When a guy when he touches the ball that much, it's bad news the next year. It just is what it is. We've seen it. We've seen Jonathan Taylor do it once. His second season in the league, he was RB1, 332 carries, 40 receptions. Sound familiar? 18 touchdowns. Sound familiar? Oh, well, he only played 11 games next year and was RB34. So we've seen this out of so many dudes. Saquon had one. Josh Jacobs. I believe CMC had one with an injury season. It is very hard to take that kind of workload and just be cool with it the next year and just roll with it. On top of that, you got a team with the quarterback we aren't sure what's happening there, right? We don't know when he's going to be back. We don't know what he's going to look like. We don't know how good he's going to be. Well, that's going to tell me this offense is not going to be what they were, for the first 3 quarters of the season last year when Taylor was absolutely eating every week. Once Danny Dimes went down, he never even hit 20 points again. So this is an easy fade for me at running back 4. I am not even thinking twice about it.
And we called that. We said, hey, get off of Jonathan Taylor in week 14. The only quibble that I would have with the assessment is that the year previous, 2024, he had 300 carries, he had 30 more touches, so it was 330 touches total, and he put together a 1,431 yard season. He followed that up with another big season, so it's not like the 300 plus touch thing is a magical, like he's definitely going to. But then on the other hand, now he's got 2 seasons with 700 touches. Wear and tear is real in the NFL when you're getting tackled by 260-pound men who are running 20 miles an hour. It does stuff to the joints. It does stuff to the muscles. And Jonathan Taylor has taken a pounding over the last couple of years. He's going to slow down at some point. This is his age 27 season. Physically, that's prime in your career. But with running backs, this is going to be his 7th season, and that typically is when people start to fall off. We know the elite guys can go longer, but there is hard evidence for this to be a terrible, terrible year for Jonathan Taylor. So,
and that's in a perfect world of the Colts offense, right? You throw in all these question marks, and I'm definitely out now.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hefty price. I'm still pretty much in on Taylor. I think this is a pretty good call for the most part. I think that I'm probably not paying RB4 prices for Taylor in any stretch of the means here. Like, I got other guys ahead of him in redraft right now. I'd probably be comfortable at RB6. His elite upside, league winning weeks when he is in the lineup and it can be trusted. And if we flipped last year, the start of the year to the end of last year, in 2024, it's like he's league winning. He's switching those weeks. Like in 2024, he was a league winner in the playoffs, and then to start the year, he was a league winner. So people that had Jonathan Taylor on it, same idea. And there's nothing else in that backfield to compete. Essentially, McGowan is there, and he's certainly clawing his way on, and DJ Giddens is another guy, but like, everything's in on Taylor, so they're gonna ride him to the ground, and as long as he can stay healthy, he's good. But yeah, like, RB4 is expensive prices.
Schultzy, check your sleeper.
Oh boy,
we got to trade. All right, well, let's get into our spotlights here, boys. Where we're going to be featuring the guys that some big names on this list, some big names, and I think there were some big names on this list the whole way through. So our viewers are going to be really probably scratching their heads, or at least knowing who the guys are to pick in the first 2 or 3 rounds and who to avoid. So great intel here, gentlemen. So Bigz, let's get into your spotlight here, and it's a banger. Let's hear it.
Bigz! Grindberg!
All right. To be honest with you, this one is a cheat. This is not necessarily sincere.
Sincere McCormick?
Here, there are 2 scenarios in which Bijan Robinson is going to be drafted in redraft. The first scenario is you have the 101. So if you don't have the 101, you don't need to worry about this one, because whoever you're in the league with is taking Bijan Robinson at the 101. That's just going to happen. The other scenario is if you don't have the 101 and somebody decides to take like Josh Allen with the 101. In that case, I would say maybe draft Bijan Robinson. If you are not the 101 and he falls to you, go ahead and pick him up. Now, his path to being the RB1 is clear. It's there. I do like Jahmyr Gibbs a little bit more than I like Bijan Robinson, but I cheated on this one. If you don't have the 101, you don't have to worry about this anyway. If you do have the 101, I don't think I would take anybody else over him.
I mean, I think he's starting to fade a little bit. I mean, this, like, Jahmyr Gibbs is being talked to more and more as the guy at the 101, and it's almost a 50-50 split, and I think Fantasy Pros is a little bit behind on their ADP, but I think you're right, Biggs. If Bijan is at the 102, you're smashing him, right? Like 100%. And certainly you don't want to be in that position to, like, if you got the 101, I don't want to have to pick between Gibbs and Bijan. I just want to be the person that picks the next one and get that little extra value there, because it's really splitting hairs here. Both lost, dream competitors in their backfield. Algier was a great, handcuff, and so was Montgomery. And we're both talking, especially Montgomery, like Gibbs could have this season, but his slight frame, it might put some red flags up for those, increasing that workload. I never wanted Gibbs to have a full, 25-30 touch kind of workload in a week, because I think that's going to wear him down. What he had last year, I think, is exceptionally good for him, and I think that's where I want to see him, because as longevity of his career, I think that would make him play a couple more years, and that's what I'm looking for. So yeah, I think you nailed this, Biggs, here with just, I was worried about you put him on the show sheet there, but RB1, let me get that extra pick in there. Schultzy, what do you say?
I don't know, man. This is just like, pick your guy. I love them both. I don't think you're gonna go wrong either way, right? I don't think there's a bad answer here. I just don't.
And also, I see some positive touchdown regression coming for Bijan.
Yes, because you removed the Algier thing and the touches. Here, I was thinking about this while you were talking about him. The touches here the last 2 years are pretty astronomical as well, like the Jonathan Taylor stuff. But then I was thinking about it. The receptions on the Bijan side are a lot higher, right? Yeah. So when you think about it, those are less impactful touches on wear and tear, because how many of those touches is he getting out of bounds or getting himself down, or like you're not just getting blasted straight into the line. So I think it's a little bit less wear and tear on the Bijan side. Because he does a very good job of protecting himself out there. But I guess there's a little bit of room for concern. But he's a lot younger than Jonathan Taylor, too.
But then on the other hand, with Gibbs, you have the evidence of everything he did when David Montgomery was not able to play, including 50-point games and, like a 25-point per game average. Like
on a much better offense.
Right. Much better. Penix isn't ready, and Tua ain't it. So what's going to happen in Atlanta? So yeah, if you have the 101, I split hairs. Maybe join a few different leagues, and if you randomly get the 101, draft Bijan in one, Jameer in another one, split it up like that, just so you have different. It's having a portfolio is more of a thing in Dynasty and in Best Ball than it is in Redraft. But hey, play that way.
Play that way. All right. Let's roll the next controversial take.
Whew, okay.
All
right. You get jaunty little jazz piano and I get the screamo.
Because that was a custom song for Bigz.
I love the song, but also mine is like both of us.
Bigz
and Grindberg.
Oh, sorry. I'll cut the Grindberg out on the next one. I'll just have a big one.
Just make him stream Bigz twice.
Yeah. All right.
Bigz. All right. Thanks, Jamie Pirog, for that theme song.
Yeah, and Jamie's the man. He's going to be joining us on the Pulse, or he was yesterday. So
tomorrow, right after, right now,
or before, or whatever. Check out the Dynasty Pulse this week when we went over the Scott Fishbowl draft with Jamie Pirog. Okay, I'm going to talk about my bust of the year here at tight end position. And look, I've been riding the Trey McBride train since before his breakout. I was one of the first voices pounding the table for him when nobody else believed the loyalty. It paid off huge for me, helped me put my name on the map in this industry. But in 2026, at tight end 1 ADP, I have to pump the brakes. Yes, the talent, it is elite. The price has gotten completely out of control. What is realistic ceiling looks more like a touchdown regression coming here. Game scripts could get ugly early for Arizona, and that could mean a situation where Carson Beck could potentially start in a real volatile situation. I love the player, but I'm not paying the tight end 1 tax when I can get Brock Bowers, who might drop the best tight end season we've ever seen, or an ascending Colson Loveland at a better price. McBride is my tight end 3 this year in redraft. I'm not paying tight end prices. Draft season is dangerous when emotions of past success can cloud your reality, and Trey McBride earned my trust throughout the years, throughout his hype. But right now, give me Bowers, give me Loveland this year, and I'm going to be fading McBride at his tight end 1. But if I can see him slip to tight end 2 or 3, I'll certainly gander at that. But I'm not paying those prices, so I'm not going to have a whole lot of Trey McBride in redraft this year if that is what I need to be paying for him.
Can't argue with any of this, man. Like the Brock Bowers take, I expect huge numbers there. I think Colson Loveland's in for a good year. Shoot, I'd wait a few more rounds and snag Tucker Kraft in redraft.
So the environment, the landscape has changed over the years. But there were studies up until about 4 or 5 years ago that if you were streaming tight ends, the odds of you picking a tight end off the waiver wire that had a week or a top 5 week, and then just doing that over and over again, the point differential that you were making up with not drafting a tight end, you were still winning leagues. That changed with the advent of the big slot tight end, who's essentially a wide receiver, and Trey McBride fits that bill. Kyle Pitts fits that bill. Brock Bowers fits that bill. Trey McBride had 315 points last year. So if you were to drop down to the number 10, 178 points, we're talking a differential of like 140, 150 points. That is in the wide receiver area of not getting your tight end. So the days of waiting and playing the streaming game are gone. I don't think Trey McBride's going to get to 315 points, but Kyle Pitts had 212. Now you're talking a difference of 100 between tight end 1 and tight end 2. These are Travis Kelce difference numbers. But Mike is right. You can get a Brock Bowers who's going to return that investment at a better price and have a top-tier wide receiver running back instead. You can get a Colson Loveland who's on the rise. You can get a Tyler Warren. You can get somebody in the top 5 or 6 that is going to eat into that differential between another Trey McBride season like this and what you're missing week by week in your total points. So yeah, I'm in Mike's camp here.
Schultzy?
Yeah, I think on the flip side of what you were saying about the tight end differential is we lived in a world with Gronk and Kelce, and then it was pretty much not much else. We've got a bigger crop of top guys now, right? So yeah, and that's just kind of what you're saying. So I agree. Yeah,
I mean, McBride can have a season like that, but if all things go right for Brock Bowers, like and they can add some sort of receiving weapon around him to take some of that coverage, because I could see a lot of double or triple teams happening with him. But yeah, man, this could be a season for the ages, and I'm here for it. So I want to get as much Brock Bowers as I can if he's going as tight end 2. Yeah. All right, Schultzy, run your clip and let's show this show on the road. Let's do it.
Schultzy!
Wide receiver 10, George Pickens. Weirdly enough, this is the lowest ranked guy I had on my 3, and I put him as my spotlight. I realized that as when you were teasing spotlights, and you're like, "Well, we've already hit you with a bunch of high ranked guys," and I was like, I think my spotlight's my lowest one. But you know what? Who cares? I don't want any redraft George Pickens, right? So I believe what we saw last year was the ceiling that we will ever see from this guy. whether it be in Dallas, whether it be somewhere else. I just don't see him producing another 1,400-yard season with 9 touchdowns. Okay. Now, we moved over to Dallas and got the huge offense boost, and that did wonders, right? If you bought in on him before last season, you got one of the ultimate value bumps. And if we're talking dynasty and you were able to move, like you took advantage of that. But this isn't dynasty, and you're not able to take advantage of last season anymore. What last season did was pushed his price up to wide receiver 10, and I just cannot get on board with that, right? CD Lamb goes down, week 3, 4 last year? And it was, right at week 3. Misses 3 games beyond that, so 9% snaps in that game. Essentially misses 4 games. High ankle sprain, grade 3. Like that's a bad injury. That stuff lingers. It takes a long time for players to fully rebound from that, right? Like, yeah, you may have missed a month of game time, but it might be another month of playing before you feel right again. And CD lingered with that. And even when he came back, he still had a few games where he popped 100 yards and a touchdown, right? He was getting out targeted by Pickens, and he still outproduced him a few times. You fast forward to the stretch run when the Cowboys needed to win, right? Like they were chasing the playoffs, so they needed it the most. Well, guess who was the guy again? It was CeeDee Lamb. Went out here, he had 300-yard games in a row, week 13, 14, 15. We had multiple double-digit target games again once he got rolling. The role is CeeDee Lamb's. George is the second fiddle. It's always going to be that way, and that's fine, right? Like I still think George Pickens is going to be a solid contributor for this team. I can't get on board with wide receiver 10 because I still think CeeDee's the dude. They're talking a lot about getting Ryan Flournoy involved a little bit. Like obviously that's some coach talk in off season, but like I do think there's a role where he has a little bit more action, right? Maybe not totally substantial, but a little bit still picks away at these guys. And all that added up, I just, no thank you on George Pickens.
Yeah, the other thing that you have to consider is 2020, Dak Prescott, QB 32. 2021, Dak Prescott, QB 8. 2022, Dak Prescott, QB 18. 2023, Dak Prescott, QB 3. 2024, Dak Prescott, QB 31. 2025, Dak Prescott, QB 6. This is the down year for Dak Prescott. He does not do well in even numbered years, which is crazy as a pattern, but you can't deny that it happened. It's there. His production is going to fall off. That means less production for the Cowboys offense in general, and that affects George Pickens as well as CeeDee Lamb. But yes, CeeDee Lamb is the straw that stirs the drink in Dallas. It's not George Pickens, although he is a fantastic wide receiver too. And if you're drafting him as your wide receiver 3 or 4, by all means go for it. But do not draft him at the wide receiver 10 spot.
Yeah, I mean, I cannot talk about George Pickens because whatever I say goes to shame. So won't happen. Whether I'm on his side or not, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, you could have.
It's the opposite. I'm going to stay neutral on this, but if I were to comment, I think some of this Flournoy, hype is maybe to get Pickens back into the groove here, maybe to push his buttons a little bit, right? I mean, I can't see him, carving out a role with Pickens there, and the way Dallas operates their offense. So I think that's just more of a chess piece. And
but why as an organization would you psychologically manipulate your player?
Especially the guy who's notably been a little hot-headed.
Right. He's a loose cannon already. Just go to him and say, hey, pick it up.
Pickens it up. All right. Yeah. With that, let's get these things off the screen. Let's get us back into our mode. Let's see if we can get an overlay on here. There we go. We're all ready to go, Bigz. What's going on in the network? What's happening?
I don't know.
You love wieners, you know that. You love wieners. It's on the
American
hat.
wieners.
American with
American
ketchup,
wieners.
extra ketchup, catsup.
No,
The wiener condiment of the Americas.
of Canada. The official wiener condiment of the World Cup. Hey, like and subscribe, hit the bell, especially if you're new here. If you are a veteran viewer, hey, welcome back. Thanks for watching. Hit us in the comments. Disagree with us, argue with us, yell at us. Tell us we're wrong. We like to hear, or tell us how spot on we are, because we're pretty smart. Go to fantasysportsadvice.com. Check out the merch store. Check out the Sellout Crowds community. Get your Pro Plus sponsorship. Get into our jersey leagues. Like, there's a lot of stuff going on. And FSAN is your home for it. So, yeah, we hope you win.
Hope you win, folks. We'll see you next week. Peace.